The one area of constitutional law that Donald Trump consistently loses in courts, even up to the United States Supreme Court, have to do with his immigration policy. His depraved, immoral, deportation, removal without due process immigration policy. In the first wave of kidnappings, there's no other word to put it, he caught people like Abrego Garcia, who was sent to El Salvador and then forced to return because the Supreme Court said it was wrong. Another person was a green card holding graduate student, now graduate of Columbia University, who took to the streets for the Palestinian cause. Not my cause, but I'll protect his right to say under the First Amendment, even things that make me uncomfortable, because they make me uncomfortable in the marketplace of ideas. As long as it doesn't cross over to criminality or terrorism, which in this case it didn't. But Donald Trump scooped up this person who's married to a U.S. citizen with a newborn U.S. citizen baby, shipped him from New York to New Jersey, from New Jersey to Louisiana. Why? To get away from federal jurisdiction of a federal court judge, right? That would be not friendly to the Trump administration. Stick him in Louisiana. But a New Jersey federal judge got wind of it, and he just made a ruling that finally releases on bail, on bond conditions, this Columbia University graduate student. And I'm going to make it clear. We're not here debating whether he ultimately should be removed, his green card revoked, and all of that through a proper immigration due process. I'm not debating that. It's just he shouldn't be scooped up, separated from his family, and sent to Louisiana Detention Center on the way out to a removal without due process, without a federal judge making rulings. And this federal judge has made rulings, and they're really interesting. We break it down for you on Legal AF, the podcast, and here's a clip.
But before we go, Popok, I want to talk about Mahmoud Khalil, right? He was in Newark, New Jersey for these federal proceedings. He was released from the Louisiana ICE detention center, where he was put there for more than 3 months after he was arrested outside of his apartment on the Columbia University campus. You had this federal judge, Michael Farbiars, who ordered Khalil's release on bail on Friday after making a finding that Mahmoud Khalil is not a flight risk or a danger to the public safety. And the judge says it is highly unusual to be seeking his detention at this point. The judge cited several extraordinary circumstances in Khalil's case that also led him to order the release, including that there is a due process violative effort to try to punish Khalil. The judge went on to find Khalil is not a flight risk, and the evidence that was presented, at least thus far, is that he's not a danger to the community, period, full stop. It's not just Mahmoud Khalil. This is their tactic for all of their kind of high profile weaponized arrests as well, where they try to deny bail. We talked about it on the last week's episode as well with Abrego Garcia. They're saying that he's a flight risk and a horrible person and the leader of gangs and all of these things. And, they presented all this phony evidence where even the United States attorney in Tennessee was like, I'm sorry, I'm just telling you what they told me to say. I picked the short straw here. So they double and triple down, Popok, after they make these unjustified arrests. They try to charge people with all of these crimes that the DOJ would never in the past charge you. And they try to keep you in jail indefinitely. But Mahmoud Khalil is out pending, this ridiculous trumped up federal trial against him because, he's a pro-Palestinian activist. And that's why he's being targeted so that, look, Donald Trump doesn't give a shit about anti-Semitism, but Donald Trump sees it as an issue that he can use as a pretext to go after people by weaponizing it and calling people, you're anti-Semitic, and he sees it as another wedge to divide us. So,
one thing too, I want to just dovetail that with something. We're still waiting for the Abrego Garcia decision from Tennessee, if you can believe it. We're now 9-10 days out from whether he's going to be detained or in that particular case for that judge. With Khalil, as you said, the good news is in the magistrate's release conditions, he's not requiring that Khalil report to ICE, which is, I'm sure, burned the ass of the Trumpers, because he's not only out not a flight risk as declared, but he doesn't have to report to ICE at all, because the judge is also aware that there's this other thing going on in like Louisiana about his removal. Even though they got a bad decision there, they're going to be able to go through an administrative appellate process. And at least he's out to help his lawyers, and he gets to reunite with his new, you and I are fathers, his newborn child and his U.S. citizen wife back in New York and New Jersey. Look, I'm not saying let's make sure we're clear on this. Just as you went through a whole list of things, throw him in jail, throw him in jail, throw him in jail. We're all about the First Amendment. And to the extent that he is proven to have exceeded the protections of the First Amendment and went into terrorism or violence or things that are outside the First Amendment, I'll be the first one to put him in the paddy wagon. It's not about that. And the First Amendment is an expression under the First Amendment. It's supposed to make your skin crawl. Unfortunately, it's supposed to make you uncomfortable. The more uncomfortable it makes you, the more it is properly protected by the First Amendment. And there's plenty of things that go on at college campuses, including about the Israel crises, that it makes my skin crawl. And because I don't get into the politics of it right now. That doesn't mean I'm not going to defend, like the ACLU, his right to say it as a green card holder, as somebody married to a U.S. citizen with an American-born child. If he wants to express his opinion without being a terrorist and without being violent, then I'm all for it, even though it might make me uncomfortable. So it's not just Khalil; it's the Khalils of the world and others named fill in another ethnic group's name. As Donald Trump's shock and awe attack on immigrants resonates not just with them, it's with anybody like you and me that counts in our immediate past an immigrant who came to this country. And that's why you and I are so passionate about this particular issue. We can separate the wheat from the chaff. I can separate criminal conduct from law-abiding, even if undocumented, people. And the last thing I'll just say on this is the shame, we have a word for it in Yiddish or Jewish, the shonder of it all is that neither party in the last 40 years has been able, even when they had the numbers that had the House and the Senate, had the political will to put together a humane immigration program as a path for 11 million people, now 11 million, maybe now 10 million people, because a lot of them are self-deported, to give them a path to citizenship. If they are hardworking, if they are paying their taxes, and if they are not criminals, we should find a way to give them a dignified path. Neither party has done that successfully. Donald Trump doesn't want to do it successfully because it makes political hay for him and divides this country for him and his electoral chances and those of his party. That's why the Republicans don't do it. And the Democrats were focused on other things for a lot of that time, like healthcare and lots of other social issues. But whoever gets back into power, and I'm looking at you, Gavin Newsom, or any of the Democrats in 2028, and we give you the House and the Senate, you have to address immigration in a humane way to give these people a path to citizenship.
Well, look, Biden tried to do it. Biden had a bipartisan bill with Senator Lankford from Oklahoma. You don't get more right-wing than Senator Lankford. And Donald Trump destroyed that budget bill. I mean, not the budget bill. He destroyed the bipartisan immigration bill, because he said it would be bad for his election. So there actually was a comprehensive bill that addressed the border, that provided pathways to citizenship. Most Americans agree that there should be a pathway for citizenship. When the immigration question is asked, why immigration tends to look a certain way as well in terms of polling often is because Americans believe there should be a strong border. But you ask more questions. Should immigrants have their due process rights violated? Overwhelmingly, Americans say no. Should there be a path to citizenship? Overwhelmingly, yes. The issue becomes where you have MAGA claims that all the immigrants are here are criminals, that 20 million criminals are here from insane asylums, and they're criminals and they're horrible people, and they're not. They contribute to the United States economy and are very, very important. California, which is under attack, literally, as though it was a foreign nation being invaded by an authoritarian regime, has the fourth largest GDP in the world. If California was a country, it would have the fourth largest GDP. It subsidizes the red states. Literally, the red states are failed states and wouldn't exist but for California's paying money to the federal government. That's it. So you notice this episode goes full circle. You've got Trump attacking Harvard, the top university, attacking California, the top state. And it's what I said at the outset. It's because, Donald Trump is a loser. And as we're now focused on war in Iran and all of these other things, think about where our attention needs to be focused on as well. And so I'll leave people with this: the disastrous budget bill that's going to rip away healthcare from 15 to 16 million Americans and can add upwards of $20 trillion of debt over the next 5 to 10 years. That's horrific. Take away food stamps from people, take away lots of social services from people so that billionaires can get massive tax cuts. Attention's being diverted away from Ukraine being attacked by Russia as Ukraine agrees to an unconditional ceasefire. Russia escalates its attack on innocent Ukrainians. Attention is being taken away from the horrors that are taking place right now in Gaza. You should be able to stand up for people in Gaza and what's going on and how people are dying and kids are dying without being called a terrorist or without being called names. It's horrible what's going on there. Trump promised that there would be a ceasefire. If anything, the ceasefire that existed was not being followed, and it's horrific what's going on there. Trump's made the world a less stable place. We've already seen wars between India and Pakistan break out. We are now seeing another war in the Middle East breaking out. We're seeing things getting worse in Russia's unlawful invasion of Ukraine. We're seeing China get more assertive and aggressive with its military ships around Australia and Japan and South Korea. Japan has to build up its military because it sees what's happening in China and that the U.S. is not going to help. Japan just canceled a meeting with the United States scheduled for July 1st because of the way the United States is handling negotiations. The Prime Minister of India, Modi, canceled a meeting with Donald Trump after Trump refused to show up at the G7, and Trump taking credit for a deal between India and Pakistan, which did not take place. Trump made a fool of the United States at the G7. Internationally, the world's moved beyond the United States. The dollar has declined in value massively. Other economies are asserting itself to become the reserve currency of the world. The U.S. bonds are not viewed the way they are anymore based on Donald Trump's erratic behavior. You have all of that happening as well at the intersection of law and politics. So there's a lot to cover.
We sit at the intersection of law and politics every day on the Legal AF YouTube channel and twice a week on a podcast where we pull it all together. We call it Legal AF. If you didn't know why, well, now you know why. Every Wednesday and Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the Midas Touch YouTube channel. We bring it over for further broadcasting on the Legal AF YouTube channel so we can be one-stop shopping for you at all things law and politics. And then we've got the audio version. We could use help with more downloads there, to be frank. It helps with the ranks, the reviews, the algorithms, and all that good stuff. And the video version, the recording of it on YouTube is Wednesday and Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Midas. Put it all together. You've got the way to support us. Take the clip we just sent you, just the one right here, this After Dark clip. Send it off to friends and family and people in your life and ask them as part of their journey to join our movement. We hopefully vibrate on the same frequency here on Legal AF. So until my next contribution, I'm Michael Popok. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.